Welcome back to Harvard Unboxed for part 2 of why building a gaming PC right now is a bad idea. Previously, we tackled DDR4 pricing, but today we'll be checking out graphics cards. It's fair to say at the start of 2018 has been a wild ride for the tech industry, and not just for tech giants, but also consumers. Just as we thought GPU pricing was finally starting to settle down in late 2017, it's gone completely berserk and is really worse than ever. There are a few reasons for why this has happened, and these reasons have all come together to create the perfect storm. These issues include demand from cryptocurrency miners, increased memory prices, and an explosion in the demand of Chinese gamers wanting to win a chicken dinner. Survive a round of PUBG. The major attributing factor, I'd say, is the fact that cryptocurrency mining profitability is way up. For example, Ethereum has skyrocketed since December, jumping from around $450 US to almost $1,000 by the end of the month. Right now, or at least at the time of piecing this video together, the value has just hit over $1,200. That's almost a 170% increase in about a month and a half. No wonder miners are snapping up every last GPU they can get their hands on. Ethereum is also just one example. There are no doubt more up-and-coming cryptocurrencies exciting miners. So while we expected cryptocurrency mining to start cooling off in 2018, so far the opposite has occurred. As I said in the previous episode when we talked about DDR4 memory pricing, which has been driven up due to a lack of supply during a time of high demand, or price fixing, well, the same thing's really happening with GDDR5 memory, and it's expected that this RAM shortage will increase the cost of graphics cards. Mid-range graphics cards are projected to cost anywhere from $5 to $20 US more, and this will no doubt impact higher-end graphics cards with even more GDDR5 memory on board even more. That by itself isn't really a significant factor, but when you lump it in with all the other issues, it does add up to the cost of producing a graphics card. I'd say that $5 to $20 estimate for the mid-range card assumes normal market conditions. That figure could certainly be amplified with such an extreme demand that we're seeing right now, caused from miners and gamers, I suppose. Many gamers seem to be pointing the finger at Nvidia, claiming price gouging or some other underhanded tactics. I don't believe this is true though. As was the case for much of last year, this also impacts pricing of AMD graphics cards. It just so happens that right now there is a slightly higher demand for Nvidia GPUs. In fact, a possible explanation for this could be the Chinese market wanting to play PUBG. I've recently spent quite a lot of time benchmarking both CPUs and GPUs in the massively popular PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Over a dozen CPUs were tested and many dozen GPUs, and what I found was the game pretty much hates AMD hardware. Unfortunately, because the game is built on the Unreal Engine 4, which was designed in collaboration with Nvidia at a time when Intel CPUs ruled, it's none too kind to AMD GPUs or CPUs. This is a real problem for AMD, as the Battle Royale title is one of the most popular games on the planet right now, and anyone looking to play PUBG will likely buy an Nvidia GPU, as they offer superior performance thanks to their influence when developing the game engine. China has gone nuts over PUBG, and as a result, the majority of Steam users now appear to be Chinese, or at least use the most commonly spoken language in the world. Chinese readers account for 64% of Steam hardware survey respondents, compared to just 8.6%, which was seen in 2016. Of those Chinese gamers, it's estimated that almost 80% of them own PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and have spent a considerable amount of time playing it. This then helps to explain why the GeForce GTX 1060 series has shot up to #1 position for the most widely used graphics card on the Steam hardware survey. Almost 15% of all gamers using Steam now rock a GTX 1060. The GTX 750 Ti came in second, the GTX 960 in third, and the 1050 Ti missed out on a podium spot by a few percent. Shockingly, the top 13 GPUs are all Nvidia based, and they make up for a whopping 71% of the Steam user base. So as I said earlier, this looks to have created the perfect storm, smashing GPU pricing and availability. The situation gamers are faced with is pretty horrific right now. There's really no other way to put it. In fact, pricing is just part of the problem, and while a very big problem, just getting your hands on a graphics card right now at any price can be a real challenge. Here's a breakdown of the current pricing, as well as a look at prices back in November and April of 2017. Now, please note, these are average asking prices, not the absolute best or worst prices you're going to find online, but rather what we deem to be the typical asking price at the time, based on data from various online retailers in the US. It's pretty clear that things have gotten well out of hand here. Availability and pricing of AMD's Radeon RX Vega line, that's been sketchy since release really in August of last year. And although things did settle down briefly in November, prices have since shot up, and it's really next to impossible to even find one in stock. Meanwhile, the RX 500 series is also mostly unavailable. You can find some at various retailers, but again, prices have just skyrocketed. The RX 580, for example, isn't far off costing 3 times the MSRP. That's insane. Meanwhile, the RX 570 is over 3 times more expensive than the MSRP, though we are only seeing a slight increase for the less desirable RX 560. It's the same situation with the Green Team. Don't expect to get a GeForce graphics card for anywhere near a reasonable price right now. The GTX 1060 6GB, which should sell for $250, is going for over $500, and the 1070 is just as bad. This is the worst GPU pricing situation I can ever recall seeing. Surely prices can't stay this inflated for too long, can they? On that note, I honestly don't know when graphics card pricing will return to normal levels or even start heading down towards the MSRPs. Memory pricing will remain an issue throughout 2018, so you can expect to pay some kind of premium this year for your graphics cards. The demand from Chinese gamers should start to cool off soon, and that just leaves us with the gamer's best friend, the cryptocurrency miner. I'd expect that mining will continue to see hot runs throughout 2018, so that will likely make buying a new graphics card a bit tricky. On a final note, I often read comments from gamers who are angry with either AMD or Nvidia, blaming them for creating the shortages in order to price gouge, and go on to claim they could simply increase production and offset the rise in demand. Sadly though, that really isn't the situation at all. Neither AMD nor Nvidia own the semiconductor manufacturing fabrication plants that produce their GPUs. For that, they primarily outsource to TSMC, otherwise known as Taiwanese Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. More recently, AMD does now use global foundries, but the point is, neither own these plants. When supply runs short, like what we're currently seeing due to a high demand, there really isn't much that can be done in the short term to solve this. If the plants are running at or near 100% capacity, you can't just magically increase capacity further, at least not without a massive investment, and I mean massive. Even if you make that investment, it's really years before it'll even be realized. Fabs require many expensive devices to function and take years to build. Estimates put the cost at building a new fab at well over $1 billion US. Values as high as $3 to $4 billion aren't uncommon. In fact, TSMC invested $9.3 billion in its Fab 15 300mm wafer manufacturing facility in Taiwan. TSMC has also estimated that future fabs might cost in the vicinity of $20 billion. So it's not feasible or even remotely realistic to invest that kind of money to try and address what's likely a limited time-only increase in demand, at least in the grand scheme of things. This means, as was the situation when investigating the high DDR4 prices, things won't really improve till demand drops off, and when that's going to happen for GPUs is, I suppose, anyone's guess really. It's not clear. Like I said, there's many factors at play here. But right now, it really does mean that building a new gaming PC is going to be significantly more costly than it ought to be. So much so that we would recommend you hold off if possible. So, bit of a disappointing way to end this video, but that's the situation we're faced with, unfortunately. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. As always, I read all your comments and love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Part 3 of this series will be coming very soon. And until then, take it easy. I'm your host, Steve. I'll catch you again soon.